Welcome to a brand new episode of the Around the Grounds Vodcast, a series brought to you by Groundhopper Soccer Guides. I'm your host, Brian Reinhardt, and joining me, as always, to tackle another country in Europe, Paul Gerald, owner and founder of Groundhopper Soccer Guides. Paul, we were very successful navigating our way through Italy, and then we went over to Germany. Today, we're moving west. We're over to France. I know you've been to France a couple times, so maybe before we talk about individual clubs, what's the environment like over for a French football game?
The funny thing about French football is my impression is that it's kind of the number two sport there. I think generally speaking, French people care more about rugby. And, you know, to get the obvious thing out of the way, their domestic league is not exactly competitive as to who's going to win it. PSG wins every year because they got all the money and all the players, and so it's not that it's not fun. It's just that at the beginning of the season, you kind of know certain things like PSG is going to win the league. But, you know, it's a little bit like we were talking about with Italy. I mean, whether the club's going to win the league or not, you know, they still play in Nice and Marseille and Monaco and, you know, and Paris, obviously. So the travel aspect is great. You're still traveling around France, and the stadiums I've been to, ironically, except for PSG, most of them are quite modern and very nice stadiums. And it is a fun experience. It's probably not why you're going to France, but when you're in France, it's a good way to, as always, kind of sample the local culture.
And perfect start. We're going to start with the granddaddy of them all, PSG. Like you said, they've won this league 9 of the last 11 seasons. Of course, they're located in Paris. And just a few years back, they featured a squad that had Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. But of course, by the start of next season, all three of those guys are going to be gone. But right. Paul, you've taken in a game at PSG. Tell us a little bit about the experience and about their ground.
Well, for one thing, it's right in the middle of Paris. It's, surrounded by neighborhood and just a couple of minutes walk from a train station. So it's not like, you know, that you got to go someplace. I mean, it's right there. And in fact, when you walk up to it, it is a 1970s era oval shaped concrete stadium with an expressway that goes underneath it. And so it's not like you walk up and go, wow, you know, like one of the Bernabeu in Madrid or like even the Camp Nou in Barcelona. You know, it's at least, I don't know, there's an aura about it. But with PSG, nobody gets excited about the stadium so much. And in fact, it was built for rugby. So the pitch is not the pitch itself, but there's the part of the stadium where the pitch is, I guess you'd say, is longer than usual. So like the PSG Ultras are back a little way from the goal because a rugby pitch is longer usually than a football pitch. So yeah, it is just an old fashioned, it kind of reminds me of the stadiums I grew up going to college football in the 1970s and 80s. So it's very simple. It's very bare bones, which actually is kind of nice. You know, it's not a sterile environment at all. And that's another thing a lot of people think about. They assume that since PSG wins the league every year and that the club has only existed for about 50 some odd years, that maybe the fans are like plastic fans or whatever, you know, that it's sort of like nobody really cares. It's really far from the truth. I mean, that is Paris's team. There is another club. There's Paris FC, but they're in at least the second division. Football is enormous in Paris. So they crank out so many great players out of that city. So it's just really a big, big part of the culture. And they've not won the Champions League, right? But they are an amazing team with great players. And people turn out. And the game I saw was against Juventus in the Champions League. And I saw those three that you're talking about play, and saw Mbappe score an amazing goal on an assist from Messi, and everybody went nuts. And the Ultras are great. They're over there banging drums and setting off smoke bombs and waving flags and stuff. It is a proper football atmosphere for sure.
I haven't won Champions League, but they just made the quarterfinals. There's hope this year.
They pretty much always make the quarterfinals.
Yeah. I'm trying to give them some hope here. I'm trying to hype them up a little bit.
It is funny in that way. You kind of wonder sometimes, like, they win the league, they usually win the cup as well. And so from the outside, it looks like well, if you don't win the Champions League, then what is your season all about? I don't really know a lot of PSG fans. I don't know if they have that attitude or not. Obviously, they'd like to win the Champions League, but it might be that, they're just happy winning the French League every year, and they don't really go home at night thinking, gosh, I wish we could win the Champions League. I don't know. But they're a great team in Paris. So, so it's worth going,
I was going to say, moving away from Paris a little bit, the next club, probably they might be more known for their women's squad, Lyon. The men's squad, they've won 7 straight league titles, but that was way back in the early 2000s. Now they're kind of middle of the pack, but you took in a game there. What was the experience like at Lyon?
Well, first of all, they are definitely known for their women's team. They are the giants of the women's game. Barcelona is kind of on the scene now and challenging, winning Champions Leagues and a lot of great players in Spain. Obviously, Spain is the current World Cup and Nations League champions. So, but Lyon is the old school. They have won, I think at one point they won 5 straight Champions Leagues and 6 out of 8 or something. So their women's team, extremely impressive, gold standard. The game I went to was it was just a French Ligue game. Honestly, don't even remember who it was against. What they are known for, they have a beautiful new stadium that is a little bit out on the edge of town. It's not the easiest thing to get to, but you can do it. Beautiful stadium. I had a hospitality package there. Very, very nice. What they're known for is their ultras. And when I was there, it was a big anniversary, 25th or 50th or some anniversary of their ultras. And we'll put some clips and videos and pictures in here because never in my life have I seen a pregame tifo display like this. They had a red curtain that covered that entire end of the stadium, and they pulled the curtain back and there was a big tifo, like a big banner and everything. And they sang and then they closed. This is during warm-ups. And then they closed the curtain. And then a few minutes later, the curtain opened and there was a completely different display. Oh. And this time it was like all these cards they were holding up, and then they flipped those over to make yet another display. And then they closed the thing and then they opened it up again. And I think they did 3 or 4 distinct displays and then set off so many flares that the game had to be stopped for a minute. They are called the Bad Gomes. It's probably a French way of saying that, Gomes. And they just go off. They are one of the famous ultras groups in France. And also the night that I was there, Karim Benzema, I don't know if he's from there, but I think he started out playing at that club, and he had just won the Ballon d'Or and was off that week at Madrid and came back, and they had a big thing at halftime, and that was really cool. So, and again, they're not one of the big clubs in Europe. They're not even, I'm not sure when the last time they even won the French League was, but they're in Lyon, which is, again, an amazing, beautiful city, really beautiful, old, historic quarter, obviously very famous for food, not that far from the Alps. Lyon's a great place.
Okay. So I'll talk about great place. The other place you've been to, many people might not even go there for a soccer or football match, Monaco. Beautiful city. I mean, everybody wants to visit there. What was your experiences like?
It is both one of the more beautiful and strange places I think I've ever been, because it's like a nation state, I guess. I'm not a geopolitical guy, but it's really just a city that is also a country. And so when you're there, I mean, it just seems like money is just falling out of the sky in that place. I mean, the entrance to the stadium is literally, the one I used is literally next to a Land Rover dealership. You're standing in to wait to scan your tickets and looking at these $200,000 cars or whatever. So yeah, the city itself, it's just on a hill, and every square foot of it is developed, and it's all parking garages. And every now and then you're walking along a street and the parking garage opens and a Maserati pulls out and goes tearing off down the street. It's a remarkable place. And in the middle of it is a stadium. And you understated things. People probably aren't going to Monaco for a game. I doubt anybody goes to Monaco for a game. But it is a nice little stadium that is right in the middle of town. You're 2 blocks away from it. You can't see it. And a good atmosphere. They're not crazy football fans. I happened to see them play Marseille, which is not very far away, just down the coast there. And Marseille won. It brought a lot of fans and won on a last-minute goal that I think we have the clip of their celebration here that we could go. But yeah, Monaco is a beautiful city that everybody should go to, I think, at least once. And like it's 20 minutes on a train from Nice. So you're right down there, and Marseille is maybe an hour in the other direction. So I actually stayed in Nice and went over to Monaco for the game. So.
I was going to say, you mentioned those three. You've been, of course, Groundhopper Soccer Guides can get you tickets. Look down there. It's scrolling across the bottom. Go to the website, get tickets. But there's some other clubs, Paul, you haven't personally been to, but you guys sell tickets for. You mentioned a couple of them. One I want to point out, Marseille. Their stadium is fantastic. I haven't been to it, but just seeing it online, it just reminds me of a really nice Premier League stadium. But Marseille is just another club. You go to France, you want to see that stadium.
Yeah, that I think as a stadium and game day experience is probably, again, I've not been there, but I think it's considered like among groundhoppers, that is a probably higher priority than going to PSG because nobody really associates PSG with cool stadium, great atmosphere, whatever. I mean, they do better than people give them credit for. But Marseille is legendary. The stadium, the fans, they also back in the day had a lot of great teams and built a huge following. And it's just a huge, very diverse city, working class port city. They straight up love that team, and their fans are the stuff of legend. And yeah, you're right. The stadium is beautiful, and I can't wait to get there. And we sell some tickets there, so stay tuned here for as soon as I can get to a game, because we have Nice as well, and they're right next to each other, kind of on the coast. And so, and Marseille, PSG, that is, I believe, the big rivalry in France, just because they're the two big powerhouses. And so if you get a chance to see the two of them play, especially if PSG comes down and plays at Marseille, that is a game I'm shooting for next season for sure.
So, Paul, you shared your ideal Italian trip. You shared your German trip. You might have given away a hint a little bit already, but if you're going to France, where are you going? Where are you trying to get people to? Maybe something that you haven't experienced before.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to fly into Paris, so spend a few days in Paris because it's Paris. Go to PSG. And then just kind of the way things are laid out in the country, I would go to Lyon and catch a game there. That's another good tourist city. I happen to love mountains. Maybe an hour southeast of Lyon on the train is Grenoble. I think that's how you pronounce that one. Beautiful city right at the foot of the Alps. They have a second division team there, in fact. So I would do that and then go down to Nice and probably stay in Nice, which is a beautiful historic city right there on the coast. And you can go to a game in Marseille from there. You can go to staying in Monaco. I can't imagine what that costs, and there's no reason. So stay in Nice. It's a more like mortal city, and go over and visit Monaco, Monte Carlo, and catch a game there. Just kind of work that whole south coast, and then I don't know, make your way over into the Basque Country and head for Spain. I mean, how can you go wrong? It's
tons of options. This was a fun episode. I've never been to France myself, but just hearing you describe it sounds this is another country that if you're a football fan, get over to France. Get to Groundhopper Guides. They can help you.
Yeah, it's like I said about going to Italy. I mean, it might not be why you go to Italy, but while you're in Rome, Florence, Milan, Torino, etc., or while you're in Paris, Lyon, Nice, Monte Carlo, Marseille, go to a game. We always tell people, Rick Steves talks a lot about becoming not just a traveler, but a temporary local. Like if you want to know what is the local culture, that's what you got to do. One of the things to do, I think, is go to a game. And especially in a place like Marseille, that club is really, really a part of what that city is all about. And to go there on a good day when they're doing well and has great atmosphere, I'm sure. I can't wait to see it myself. Nice, when I stayed there in a hotel, I could see the ocean. There's a beautiful old part of Nice, and go over and sort of a mix of like classic old school restaurants, and then a lot of young people moving in there and putting up really nice artisan restaurants. I had some really good meals in Nice. Okay. Just don't ask me what they were, because it's been about a year and a half and I don't recall, but it's a beautiful place. The whole, I mean, talking about the coast of France, what could go wrong? We've got a good chunk of Ligue 1 and more to come as I hopefully move to Spain later this year and have France right next door.
Just wait. We'll get a camera in your hand. We'll be having so much more footage on the ground once you get back over there, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So,
Paul, thanks for telling us all about French soccer and football and just the environment. And it's a great episode. And I want to thank everybody for tuning into this episode of the Around the Grounds podcast. We look forward to bringing you future episodes very soon. And hopefully, Groundhopper Soccer Guides will see you at the grounds.